Look, okay, I'm sorry that I didn't like Pride and Prejudice. I've always wanted to be one of those girls that got it. Truly. But to me, the characters were not enjoyable to read about, and the vibes were not enough for me to care. I have tried 4 separate times at 4 different points in my life, and each of these times was a complete snooze fest, just like all the others. But I think even that is still unjustified to just completely write off one of the most famous women authors that's ever existed. So this video idea was born. Here I will be reading books from authors that I hated in an attempt to be less of a hater. Welcome to Natalie and Company. I'm Natalie and you are the company that I do like to keep. I make books about YouTube. I make YouTube videos about books and the things that I read and consume. So if you are feeling it, maybe hit the subscribe button down there. I have 4 books. There's an audiobook from authors that definitely gave me a less than superb reading experience the last time that I picked them up. In my truest and what I believe to be final attempt to read Jane Austen, I will be picking up Mansfield Park. I believe that this one is known as one of her darker, her sadder novels, so I'm hoping that the fact that it stands out to people who like Jane Austen means I will like it or lean into it a little more. I'm gonna be honest with you, my hopes are not very high. I'm hoping the grit that people say is in this one makes it a more enjoyable reading experience for me. Then, Attempt to Conquer Another White Woman, I have Thirst by Mary Oliver. I picked up Upstream at the beginning of last year, and I hated it. It was one of my least favorite books that I read literally all year. She spent just way too much time sharing about herself. TMI, you know. And I know that she is famous for her poetry, so I figured I should probably pick up her poetry, which she's known for, before I judge her too hard. After this, we have The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. I picked up An Artist in the Floating World by him last year and was, again, very, very, very extremely bored. It was a literary fiction about a man who returns from war to, the neighborhood that he grew up in falling apart. And just nothing about it stood out. Really and truly nothing about it. It was just so completely unremarkable to me in every way. But I do know that Ishiguro has a lot of different kinds of stories, so that's why this one is a fantasy read of his. So I have the highest hopes of all of this list for this one, because I think the Kazuo Ishiguro, I didn't have a problem with his writing. I had a problem with the plot. This one has the most potential for me to enjoy it. Lastly is the one that I am pretty sure I'm gonna like the least, but we are going to try reading Lisa Jewell one more time. I will be reading The Girls in the Garden by Lisa Jewell in an attempt to combat the absolute mess that None of This Is True was for me. My standards are really low for this book. I am just hoping the ending is not as predictable as None of This Is True. I'm really, really hoping. I would like to note that I did have a different title originally, but unfortunately there is a boycott against St. Martin's Press. There will be links in my description if you want to know more about the boycott. Just know that you and I missed out on a really good reading vlog because of St. Martin's Press. Check out Readers for Accountability. They have a lot of great information about the boycott. So let's crack into these books. Hello. I am finished with Thirst by Mary Oliver. Let me just pull up my notes. I gotta be honest with you, this is a 2.5. There's a lot of Jesus in this one. Way more than I was expecting. I don't know, one of my favorite poets is Rilke, and he is always writing about God, but it was very repetitive writing about Jesus and God. It was like, oh, God is everywhere. God is all around us. God is all of the things. Oh, Jesus is in all of the things. Jesus is all around you. Like, just like, kind of like that idea again and again and again. It wasn't varied or anything. It kind of caused me to get a little bored. I would like get to the end of a poem and be like, ah, great, it's about Jesus again. Jesus is everything. Jesus is everywhere. But I also, you know, that's a personal preference. I don't know if any of her other writings are like super religious like this one, because this one is about after her partner passed away and she went through this like whole cycle of grief and religion and stuff like that. And so I don't know if any of her other works are as Jesus heavy as this. It just was too much for me personally. But I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it a lot more than I did Upstream. And I kind of knew that, because my problem was never with her writing. It was with the content of what she was writing about. And again, here it's with the content. The variety in these poems just like really begins to dim the deeper that you get into this collection. And even though there were some gems every once in a while, she even titles a poem, "The Poet Comments on Yet Another Spring." And like, I just think that is, you know, even her testifying to the fact that she is repeating a lot of the same subjects and themes and things. It's 0.5 better than the 2 I gave for Upstream, so it's a little bit better. Maybe I just picked the wrong one again, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have to read 3 of your books in order to enjoy and understand them. Anyway, we are on to The Buried Giant. I'm about 50 pages into The Buried Giant, which I'm actually impressed by. The writing style is reminding me, funnily enough, of The Priory of the Orange Tree. That's not like a connection I ever expected to make, but it feels very fairy tale fable-esque. Just like it kind of felt like The Priory of the Orange Tree did to me. And I'm really liking it. I'm liking the imagery. I love old main characters, and the 2 main characters in this story are an old couple, so I'm actually quite looking forward to this. I'm really hoping. This scene in The Buried Giant is cracking me up. They're like in a mausoleum. They're like in a creepy place, and they know that there's like a beast that's after them. And they're like looking around the room, and then the kid that they're traveling with starts singing, and then they're like, "Stop that," because they think he's doing it to calm his nerves. But then, like a minute or 2 later, he starts like contorting his body and like singing again and like crawling around in the shadows, and they just go, "The recent events surely overwhelm him." I'm like, no, dude, something is wrong. Something is wrong here. Hello? I have returned. I am back from reading The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro, and I'm very happy to say that this will be staying on my shelf, just like I wanted, because I quite enjoyed it. It was super, like, whimsical. It's based on a post-Arthurian England, so, and I love, you know, King Arthur, all of his stories and things like that, so I thought that element was super entrancing and exciting to me. I do just feel like the ending was tiny a tiny bit flat with a little bit less symbolism and a little bit more direct communication of themes, it would have a little bit of a better ending, or a better flow into the ending, because you're going on this grand journey and these adventures and everything are happening, and then suddenly the book is just over and you're left to like think with all of these things. And maybe that's kind of the purpose, because there's definitely like themes of death in here, and the themes of, you know, memory and moving on, moving forward, or choosing to stay in the past and things like that. And so potentially it was done on purpose, but for me, as somebody who relies so much on an ending to create my reading experience, I did shut the book and be like, oh, well, that's over now. Like, it didn't leave me with a ginormous impression at the end, even though the reading experience throughout itself was very fun and whimsical. Castle vibes, which I liked. Definitely a billion times liked it more than The Artist of the Floating World. And I knew I probably would. I feel like Kazuo Ishiguro, his books, like, they vary so much. There's so many different kinds of them. And maybe it's just about finding the right Ishiguro for you. But I definitely did enjoy this one. I probably give it about a 3.5. I gotta finish The Girls in the Garden. I started it. I just want to know why. It just feels like, okay, I'm gonna spoil the very first chapter, which is only like 3 pages. In the very first chapter, they find a girl's body. And it just felt like a plea, like, from Lisa Jewell to wrote that first chapter where they find a girl's body as a plea for the reader to just keep reading, even though nothing interesting is happening. Was saying, like, I know things are boring, but they'll get exciting eventually, and I just don't think you should write your book like that. I think you should write your book to be entrancing and interesting, or provocative, or purposeful, at least from the very beginning, and the whole way through. And it just felt like there were so many details that weren't purposeful, and not in a way of like, oh, trying to hide who the killer was and trying to trick the reader into thinking they know what's going on. No, there was just so much irrelevant information that took away the focus from the thriller and the mystery of it all. And I just kept finding myself getting lost, falling asleep, and still nothing has happened yet. So I just have to keep reading. I don't like that feeling. I don't think I should be feeling like that after reading a thriller. Maybe if I were reading a different genre, but when you're specifically marketing it as like a thriller, as a mystery, it's gotta be thrilling. It's gotta be exciting in some way, shape, or form. And not even the first chapter where she wrote about the girl's body was that exciting. Maybe Lisa Jewell is not. I have a feeling that's what my conclusion at the end of this is gonna be. You know, I really didn't have to pick one of her longest ones, but I did. No, it's too late to go back on it. Okay, why did Lisa Jewell name her character Catkin? That's a ridiculous name. This book literally doesn't pass the Bechdel test. Also, why do these 11-year-olds talk like adults? Like, some of these perspectives are literally from 11-year-olds, and they're like having these conversations with each other that are like, I don't know, maybe I'm out of touch with the 11-year-olds, but it literally feels like even like 2 police officers like talking with each other, talking about like, oh, why did this girl die, and why, and like, it doesn't sound like 11-year-olds. It doesn't sound like it. Like, I feel like there's a way that you could portray 11-year-olds speaking about the same subject, but it just, like, she didn't do that. She just, like, kind of, like, wrote regular for her 11-year-old characters. I don't know, maybe I'm being picky. Okay, excuse the air fryer. I have a really big issue with this book so far. Maybe Lisa Jewell resolves it by the end of it, but just, like, there's a character that has schizophrenia, and he burned down a house because he had schizophrenia, and I feel like it's very antagonistic towards him. Like I said, we'll have to see what happens to see, like, if it's, like, confirmed, like, kind of weird about the schizophrenia. Like, I don't know, medical professionals in the book are like, yeah, he's doing really good. Like, we watched him and all of these things, and he's like still really villainized despite his, you know, willingness for progress. And I think that's really gives me a big old ick. And I really wish that part of the plot would resolve itself so I can stop listening about it. Oh my god. I just have one thing to say about The Girls in the Garden by Lisa Jewell. You did not need to describe 13-year-olds having sex to give the story that you were trying to give. It was completely unnecessary and very uncomfortable. I was like, okay, fade to black, or like fade to black, or like fade to black, hello? And then she did it, and that was in the middle of a chapter, and it just kept going after that, and I didn't like it. I know I said that's the only thing that I have to say, but it really felt like a waste of 9 hours. I don't get the hype around Lisa Jewell, and I think I have to accept that she is not the writer for me in any way, shape, or form. I'm glad that we figured that out now, and I never have to read another one of her books again. I am 250 pages in here. There's about 200 pages left. I'm not hating it. I really am not hating it. I'm just like waiting for something important to happen. They're about to have a ball, so potentially something important is gonna happen there. But so far, all they've really done is ride horses and visit another person's house, and they tried to throw on a play, but then the play got canceled. So it never happened. And that's literally all that's happened. She has some really beautiful quotes. Jane Austen's sentence structure is ridiculous. Her like ability to sew word after word after word together to like create this like piece of poetry in the middle of a novel is really impressive. Do I like it? Meh. Do I totally get why she is a paragon of femininity and one of the greatest female writers of all time? Yeah, I do. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the real duality of woman. I'm sorry. She does not think evil, but she speaks it in a playfulness, and though I know it to be playfulness, it grieves me to the soul. The effect of education, said Fanny gently. Stop. Get out of here. Okay, I just need to say something because maybe it's my own brain, but Jane Austen's writing, okay? I'm a classic reader. I love reading classics, and there have been so many that I've enjoyed, but Jane Austen in particular, it literally sometimes to me feels like gibberish. Like, I feel like I'm like focusing 100% of my concentration on comprehending the shit that she's saying, and I get to the end of like one single sentence, and I'm like, what? And then it's not until like 4 more sentences later that I comprehend that sentence, but now I'm 4 sentences behind, and like, is this just me? Am I the mistake here? Is it just my issue? Am I listening too hard? Am I not listening enough? Why does it sound like gibberish? Going in one ear and then out the other, and I'm like, is this reading? Have I ever even read a book before? Jane Austen has always made me spiral like this, so we're gonna push through it. We're gonna finish the book.
In which she blushed at the recollection of herself when she saw his look, and heard him reply, "Never, Fanny, so very determined and positive. This is not like yourself, your rational self. I mean, compared with me, all the rest were blameless. I was playing the fool with my eyes open." "As a bystander," said Fanny, "perhaps I saw more than you did, and I do think that Mr. Rushworth was sometimes very jealous." "Very possibly. No wonder. Nothing could buy the enthusiasm of her fondness for Henry. I told her that you are of all human creatures who are revolutionary. On this principle, he soon afterwards observed, you are sure therefore of seeing your friend either tomorrow or Sunday. They really go on Monday. Delightful rehearsal. I shall never forget it. Here we were, just in this part of the room. Here we look up."
Really? That's how it ends? And that was like the happiest ending? I don't know how to feel. I really don't. There were so many times that it felt like I was just slogging to get through it. But there were also so many really awesome quotes, like beautifully composed sentences. And I just like I'm gonna talk about spoilers because this book has been around for 200 years. Skip forward to this time if you don't want the spoilers for Mansfield Park, but why? Why incest? Why incest, bro? I'm like, I wasn't even mad. I wasn't even mad that it ended in incest. Because, like, they were the best pair. And I hate that. I hate that Jane Austen made me feel that the incestuous pair was the best couple. And, like, I really don't know how to feel. I really don't. I really, really don't. I just don't get it. I don't understand. I don't think that Jane Austen is for me. I don't necessarily regret having read this book, but did I like it? I don't know. I like legitimately don't know. I guess that would just make it like a solid like 3 stars because I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it, and sometimes incest is just not necessary. Everybody kept saying that this was so tragic online too, so I thought that she wasn't gonna end up with her fucking cousin, but she ends up with her fucking cousin. Like, what? I guess maybe that is the sad part of it too, even though she loved her cousin. Jane Austen, you are a complex woman. Maybe too complex for me. I need to go think about this more. Alright guys, I'm going to end the video off here. Did have quite a good time dipping back into some authors that I previously did not really like. Ended up being, you know, half I enjoyed and half I did not. So I would say that's a pretty good success rate, especially coming from authors that I previously disliked. I will definitely be picking up something by Kazuo Ishiguro again. That was definitely my favorite of the video. I probably will never pick up another Lisa Jewell in my life, but maybe down the line I'll feel a little frisky and pick up a Mary Oliver. Mansfield Park was definitely the most interesting of everything that I read for this video. And I still don't know if I mean that in a good way or a bad way yet. I honestly do feel like I might want to read another Jane Austen again. Maybe one of her shorter ones next time though, because this is literally one of her longest books and I really don't need to pick the longest one. So I look forward to potentially reading a shorter Jane Austen novel in the future. Thank you for watching. Thank you for keeping me company here at Natalie & Company. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe, and I really need to go and take care of my kitten.